Hello everyone and welcome to the Winging It F1 podcast. We're doing a preview for the 70th anniversary Grand Prix. What a lovely name. And today I'm here with Freddie and Nigel. So how are you both?
Yeah, good
Amazing.
today.
Yeah, always good.
Oh, he's always.
That's
Oh,
cool.
that's cool.
Is the Formula E starting today? Is that?
Yes, the day we're recording this, Formula E is back. We've got Berlin 1, round 1. Well, round 6. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds confusing.
It's
6 p.m. is a race. There we go. There's the plug.
the plug for the race that will have happened probably by the time this is out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But watch our podcast anyway that we did the other day.
Oh, that's a good plug.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you for Joe for filling in because I don't know anything about Formula E. He did a very good job. And I thought it was a good podcast overall, apart from Nigel's slander of me about 10 seconds in. But it's all right because don't hold grudges, as you will find out when I do the quiz later. So,
I
but
love you, Adam. I can't wait for the quiz.
it's all about Windsor and Legoland. So, we're not,
Don't give it all away. I need to have some pickup lines.
but we're not focusing on that today. We're focusing on the 70th anniversary Grand Prix. So the first thing to note is that Pirelli have gone ahead with the softer tyre compounds. So obviously last week there were 4 tyre blowouts or punctures, and 3 happened to the top 5, and one of them caused the biggest crash in a while. But they have stayed with that, and they'll be running with higher pressures to try and compensate for that. Their investigation into the crashes basically said that it was just due to wear. So what do you guys think about that, first of all?
I'm happy we've got the softer tyres. I completely would have understood if Pirelli wanted to take a step back, but also it wouldn't have worked for the production line. Definitely not for them. They would have already prepared these tyres and shipped them over to the UK. But ignoring that and thinking about the F1 moving mountains perspective of it, I think I'm glad that they didn't go down a route of getting the harder compounds, because it does throw up an entirely different perspective now to the previous race, and people are going to be going into it thinking, well, we've definitely got to pit, because we know what the medium tyre was like, and we know what the soft tyre was like, and they were not the best race tyres, definitely not the soft, and that's going to be the medium and the hard for this weekend. So I don't know whether it will lead to then some teams qualifying on the hard tyre or whatever, but that just throws in a whole new perspective to the race. It's going to force the team to go out and practice, and it's going to be really hot, so that's going to be even more harsh on the tyres. The track temperature is going to be probably 45 plus because it's going to be 30 Celsius in the air all weekend. So it's going to be an entirely different race to what we've had in recent years, and going back to where we were sort of mid-decade.
Yeah, there's a few things to say, I think it's great if we do have a 2 or 3 stop race. And not every race has to be 2 or 3 stops. But I think because we've had so many one-stop races over the last 2 or 3 years, it's good to have a change. So I think that's a good thing. Talking about what happened on Sunday, both Mercedes had a puncture, and that car probably has the most downforce out of the whole field. And therefore, when they go around the corners, Cops, Maggotts and Beckett's, they're going to be taking more speed, which loads up the tyres. So that's one possible reason why both Mercedes, Hamilton and Bottas, as well as Carlos Sainz in the McLaren, because McLaren have produced a pretty good car this year, and they're going quite well in the corners as well. So that's another reason why tyres may have had some troubles for those cars. But I think for this weekend, yeah, it's great really that we've got these softer tyres. Hopefully we do get a 2 or 3 stop race. It might not change the outcome at the front, but in the midfield we can expect a lot of strategy changes.
Yeah, I think definitely seeing how it changes and how teams approach it differently all through the weekend, as you say, from Friday onwards. I think that'll be interesting. Obviously, the strategy as well. I'm glad if they found that there's no safety risk, because Kvyat's crash was very heavy, and he was only about, well, he was a few meters off hitting just the bare metal fence, rather than the Armco as he did. So, yeah, I think there's that kind of element of, as long as they found it safe, but, you know, we won't know that at all. But I think there is just that asterisk that I'd throw out there.
Yeah, I mean, the asterisk. I mean, all of the tyre blowouts were on a tyre they're not going to use in this race anyway. They're on the hard tyre. I think for Kvyat as well. I don't know if it was the medium, but I think he had just pitted for the hard tyres. So early on, so that's a tyre that's not going to be used in this race, and that's one way of looking at it. And they are, yeah, as you say, they are increasing the minimum pressure. So they've taken precautions, and teams are going to know that the track's going to be abrasive and the tyres are going to be under pressure. So they're going to need to play it more conservative. And
I think, what's interesting was the teams wanted to change. I think the tyres. No, Pirelli wanted to change the compound last year to make it stronger, but the teams opted to stick with the 2019 structure of tyre. So you can't. I think anyone who's blaming Pirelli for this is being a bit harsh, because ultimately Pirelli are getting asked to make this type of tyre. So yeah, and it's just up to the teams to pit earlier, I guess, because if they can see the cuts and the drivers can feel vibrations, then I think you should just simply pit, even if it's not, the best strategy for the race.
Yeah, this is the high. I think Pirelli said these are the highest loads ever on tyres in Formula One, and that's not hard to believe at all. Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, Copse, Abbey, Luffield, all of those corners are going to be absolutely destroying these tyres, particularly the front left is the one we saw go on at the end of the race. So it's that tyre is just going to be, the whole car is leaning onto that tyre for the majority of such a high speed lap. I think it's going to be very interesting in some other tracks like Spa, if we're going, what they're going to do there. They'll probably bring the same tyre compounds they had last week, which are the hardest options, and that's going to, like someone like Pouon, with putting this amount of wear on tyres, it could lead to some more interesting strategy races later down the season. Mugello is horrific. It's going to be horrific on tyres. That's going to be, I mean, it's not much to go on, but on Project Cars, I did some laps on Mugello in a Formula Renault, and after a couple of corners on the first lap, the tyre was red on the temperature thing, and that doesn't happen. So
yes, Freddie Coates, the official winging it test driver. But yeah,
Ben Anderson, eat your heart out.
Do you think that will help kind of improve the drama in the race? The kind of, because there wasn't much. It was a bit of a procession, a bit of a kind of boring race until all the tyre blowouts happened with 3 laps to go. So, I mean, do you think anything else? Do you think that was just kind of the way the chips fell last week, and it'll be different this week, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think the problem on Sunday was everyone pitted on the same lap. Well, even in a normal one-stop race, you get different strategies in terms of people going longer or undercuts. So then,
apart from Grosjean.
Apart from Grosjean, who defended brilliantly, didn't he, as we talked about last time. But yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more strategy games, and like I said, we don't have to see two and 3 stop races at every race, just every now and then, just to mix things up. I mean, F1 needs variety over a season. That's something I think it lacks at the moment. So, if the teams are having to pit more than once, then I think that's only a good thing.
The traditional strategy that you'd normally see going into the race of the people starting on the softs and the people starting on the mediums was actually starting to turn into quite a nice fight, because people on the softs were looking after their tyres. And so from about, I don't know, 5th, wherever I think the McLarens were in the, sort of the early start of the race, all the way down to the back of the field, really, where the medium starters was shaping into a really nice sort of midfield scrap that was going to be involving the majority of the field of the entire grid. So that was shaping up quite nicely. And like Nigel says, there was a safety car. So everyone who started on the medium, everyone who started on the soft pitted for the hard tyres, and then that was it. And it was going to become there wasn't going to be a strategic elements to the race, and that just took that out, which is fine from a strategy performance perspective. The only person really with a strategy following that was Grosjean and actually Albon, because of and Grosjean's just wasn't necessarily the best, and that's a shame because anyway, it is.
Yeah, I think it disadvantaged the people. Like Stroll's the one who springs to mind, and Vettel, who'd started on the medium tyre and then just had that completely wiped out. But Racing Point really have pace all weekend, or the pace that we thought they'd have. Do you think they'll improve this week kind of as they learn the setup a bit more, or do you think it's just kind of not their track like we thought it was?
Ooh, that's a tough question.
I mean, they had to have pace to unlock, didn't they?
Yeah, I think it partly depends. They need Perez back, really. We don't know if that's going to happen yet. But if you have Hulkenberg in the car, I think they're going to struggle to get a top 10, to be honest, in the normal race. And Stroll, I think he get 8th or 9th last time. He looks like he had pace, but he just couldn't overtake, really. So, yeah, I was surprised that they were slower than I thought, because for Ferrari to be on the podium with Leclerc and Racing Point to not be, and seeing what we've had in Hungary and Austria, that was a huge surprise. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think for a racing perspective, they need Perez back.
He got a bit ragged, did Stroll, I think. And it sort of harked back to his 2018 season at Williams, where he was then sort of the team leader in Williams, and he struggled a bit with that. I think it sat on his head a bit, and he had a bad car to haul up then. He just struggled mentally with that, I think. And I think this weekend, he was very clearly the number one driver in Racing Point. He was there to help Hulkenberg, but Hulkenberg was obviously not going to be working so well. He's not been training at all for Formula One. So I think with Stroll, he was getting a little bit tetchy with the weight on his shoulders, and he would have been told Hulkenberg's not starting the race. You're the only hope, Lance, and I get the impression that was weighing on him quite a bit.
Yeah, there was some conspiracy theory that I saw that Racing Point intentionally didn't start Hulkenberg because Hulkenberg wasn't fit enough or something like that. So they thought, he wouldn't start the car. So I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah. I mean, he was complaining about his neck kind of early on in the weekend. So, I think only possible explanation, only logical explanation anyway. On Hulkenberg, do we expect him to be better? Where do you think he'll be kind of around? Do you think
is he definitely racing?
I don't think we know, but
I think it's a 90% chance, surely.
Yeah.
Well, Perez needs to test his eyes, doesn't he? So he needs to start driving to test his eyes. So I think he has to race. Yeah. Those are the new rules that were introduced in April, isn't it, by the UK government, and we're at Silverstone.
Well, it depends if he's driving far enough.
That's a good point.
He just needs to do loads of laps. He'll unlock the Force India from 2 years ago and just bomb around Silverstone for an hour.
Because that's the best way to test your eyesight, you see. No, so in all seriousness, Perez, really, he shouldn't be back, just to be on the safe side. And if Hulkenberg is in the car, which is what we are expecting, he should get up to speed. I think Hulkenberg has got a big advantage that we're racing at the same circuit. So then he's got that track knowledge. He can get used to the car. And, Formula One has a lot of practice. There's, 4 hours of practice? Yeah, that's right. So that's a lot compared to other motorsport series. So he should be able to get his neck used to the G-forces, hopefully. And then, if he can get into Q3, that'll be a good result. And if he can get some points, that'll be even better. So I think those will be Hulkenberg's targets this weekend.
I think very reasonable, yeah.
Yeah, I think he has it. I mean, Stroll kind of, without the 2 blowouts at the end, then he wouldn't have got points. But I do think they've got it in them. They should be getting them. And there's still just a kind of feeling maybe they've not unlocked the full potential of the car, but we've spoken about that a lot already.
It'll be interesting for Hulkenberg. If he can have a really good weekend, could that perhaps get him back onto the grid next year with Haas or Alpha, possibly? Because I think he might have been left out of the driver market. He might have been forgotten about, but now he's back in F1, back in the paddock. He's actually on the track. It could save his F1 career, perhaps, and he might get another chance next year, depending on what happens in the driver market.
I think there's a very good chance he'll be back. And we completely ignored that. And like Adam says, we did our silly season podcast and we completely ignored Hulkenberg. But obviously in whenever it was, 2018, Paul di Resta was in the announced by Williams as to be in the fight for the seat after his standard performance at Hungary that year for Massa. So I think you're right. I think he will be one of the big names and movers and shakers coming up. We'll need to do a sequel.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what I put down, but I'm not so sure. I feel like
there's a chance now.
There's not enough seats. I think there's a chance, but for me, it feels like there's not enough seats and a bit too many, especially kind of with Vettel out and possibly Perez out of seats. And that kind of cuts down some of the landing spots. But of people kind of looking for an experienced driver, they're probably going to go for them rather than Hulkenberg. But yeah, it can't harm his chances really. Well, I guess it can if he runs 5 seconds off the pace. But it's a good opportunity, and I think it will enhance his reputation. A lot more. One of the seats available, although probably not, or one of the potential seats available, I should say, probably not one that Hulkenberg will be going for, but is at Alfa Romeo. And we've not spoken too much about them so far this year because there's not much to say. But on Kimi, do we think he's where do we think his motivation's at? And do you think he's kind of enjoying it, regretting his decision to stay on an extra year? Because he's running round at the back. He's got to kind of live in this bubble in the F1 circus and can't, he's pretty limited in terms of what he can do there. And yeah, he was, off the pace. He finished last and was the only car to be lapped and got overtaken by Latifi last week. So kind of what do we think on him at the moment?
I think Sunday's race wasn't representative of Raikkonen because he broke his front wing, but I believe for some laps before that, he was running around with a broken front wing. And for some reason, Alfa didn't choose to pit him. I don't know why. But I think Alfa Romeo's operations have been possibly the worst on the grid this year. They got the strategy wrong in Hungary with Giovinazzi, in fact, and Raikkonen. And I think, the car doesn't have the pace at first, but the team isn't doing itself any favours really. As for Raikkonen, well, I think him and Giovinazzi are quite equal. I think that's my opinion on him. So, I feel he should have retired a couple of years ago. So if he does retire this year, it's not going to be a big loss because he's well past his best, and it's unfortunate really because people who've only been watching F1 in the last few years won't have seen how good he was, especially in his McLaren days, 2005, 2004 with Montoya as his teammate. He was one of the quickest F1 drivers ever. That's how he was regarded at the time. Him, Alonso, and Schumacher, were the force. He was incredible. Think about Suzuka 2005, which get an appearance later on in the show. Yeah, Suzuka 2005. He was absolutely incredible. He was just ballistic. But since his return when he came to Lotus in 2012, I think it was, after his little rallying stint, he hasn't quite been on it, because you're having to save tyres in F1, whereas in 2005, 2004, he was pushing every single lap, and it seems Raikkonen isn't a fan of that, even though he is actually quite good at saving his tyres.
I think his Lotus days were really interesting because it was a bit disproportionate. We had Grosjean as his teammate, and it would have been because the Lotus in 2012 and 2013 was, for a lot of it, was the second best car and was fantastic. And that was pushed by Raikkonen. He finished third in the 2012 championship, which a lot of people forget. And he came in and was close to the Kimi Raikkonen of old, a hairbreadth away from disaster, but nailing it with how he was driving. And I've always kind of thought he's a bit weird at Ferrari. I don't know why. I thought his Lotus time was all right. And because Grosjean wasn't bad in particularly 2013 at Lotus, but Raikkonen was brilliant. He won 2 races with them. Yeah. So that's just says a lot. But it feels like at Ferrari, he left a lot to be desired both times. Yes, he won a championship once, but he was still matching Massa, I kind of think. And it seems to be a bit like, is he a bit weirdly comfortable at Ferrari?
It seems after he became world champion, he dropped off after he won in 2007. He was never the same.
I mean, he did his run there. He didn't finish off the podium for the whole back end of the season. And he had 2 firsts in France and Britain. He retired at Europe. And then after that, he was on the podium for the rest of the thing. He won the most races then. It kind of feel it is a bit of a slept on season because the story was about Lewis and McLaren.
That's true.
But he, it was a kind of brilliant, really consistent season from that perspective. And again, I think Lotus, he kind of came back and seemed to be on the pace initially, but wasn't
able to 10 years ago, wasn't it?
yeah, that's crazy to think about. I think what you said about him and Giovinazzi are quite similar. I don't know kind of who comes off worse from that. It's kind of, should Giovinazzi be,
Giovinazzi
should he be beating a teammate who's been, he's 40 now, and he's not been on the pace for a while. Or
he's still a teammate who won a race in 2018 and got a pole position at Monaco the year before, which isn't a slipstream pole position. That's a driving pole position. So he's still, it's still there with Raikkonen, and I think the fact that Giovinazzi, the majority of the time he's beating him. I think he only hasn't out-qualified him in the Styrian race when he spun right at the end of what was a really fast lap, unfortunately for him, in the wet. But he still spun, and it seems to be the silly mistakes team at the moment, Alfa Romeo.
There's one to clip.
No, they'll hate me. They still love me currently, obviously, but they definitely know us.
And one other talking point to touch on that we kind of didn't discuss too much last time, but Bottas, where do we think his head is at regarding the championship? Because I looked at when he went in the first corner, he kind of had an inside run on Lewis.
Yeah.
And pretty much backed out of it and just stuck for second. I feel like Rosberg would have gone for that every day of the week. And so do we think he kind of is thinking about the championship, or got at least half an eye on, just solidifying, picking up kind of as many second places as he can, and kind of securing his contract for another, as long as he can?
If he's got an eye on the championship, he should have gone for that, really, I think. Because he knows his best chance to win the race is off the start. And, I have no idea why I didn't go for that, because if you watch the onboard, he got a really good start again. He seems to get really, really good starts ever since he joined Mercedes. And he just backed out of it. I don't know why, because I turn one on the first lap, I think it would be flat, even with a full tank of fuel. So I have no idea why he didn't go for that. A massive chance missed. He's had his one bit of bad luck now. He didn't get any points. Whether that will happen to Hamilton at some point to level the luck scores up, I don't know. But it's going to be very, very tough now, isn't it? If Hamilton doesn't suffer any misfortune.
Yeah, there is a history of sort of half-assed moves with Bottas, and this one was kind of. He left Hamilton like 2 or 3 car widths even, on his left-hand side, and just...
It was alongside, pretty much.
He opened himself up to an attack from behind going into turn 3, which is why Leclerc didn't get third because Bottas had to defend, which forced Verstappen on Leclerc, and that's just obviously how racing works. But like, there's playing the Professor Prost game, and then there's just settling for second, and this was just settling for second.
I think playing the Prost game only works if you're at the same level as the person you're in a championship fight against.
Best drivers of all time, Prost gets consistently underrated.
I feel like with Bottas, it might have just been, I don't know, that he just doesn't want to kind of risk going for a move like that, and because if he sends both of the Mercedes out, that's that's pretty awful for him. So I don't know whether he's just kind of just focused on picking up something if Lewis does kind of falter or gets a puncture or whatever, but not kind of fighting him too hard. I mean, we saw in the Austrian Grand Prix that he defended very well from him, but when the tables were turned, he kind of just didn't go.
He didn't really have to defend though. He just had to not make any mistakes, and he never actually had to move off line.
Behind you.
Hamilton behind him at majority only a second really back, and also having to nurse a car that was in the worst shape a Mercedes has been in a race since the year before.
I think the problem for me is we've seen when he's had to come through the midfield and stuff. Yeah, he's not as good at doing that kind of thing. And also, Bahrain 2018 springs to mind when Vettel was leading on the last lap. Bottas had a chance to do a Daniel Ricciardo style dive bomb and get the move done, but he didn't really go for it either then.
He didn't win a race in 2018, and Hamilton won 11?
Yeah.
He should have won his race.
He's done better since then. He's done a lot better since then.
That's because he's had a better car.
Yeah, but there was bad luck in 2018.
He should have won in Russia, and not just like, if he'd done this, it was the Mercedes swapped the cars. So,
would Hamilton have overtaken him anyway?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't know, but I don't think so.
It was late on in the race.
To
be fair, Vettel lost in that race because Vettel got overtaken by Hamilton. Anyway, this isn't the Russian Grand Prix 2018 podcast. We're going to do that in 20 years' time.
You signed us up for a long time there.
I'll be bold.
Where do we think Bottas is in relation to Verstappen on race pace? Because I feel like, he's finished second to Hamilton once so far this season. And I feel like, without the puncture, there was no way that Verstappen would catch Bottas here. But it kind of feels like there's not that much of a gap. And if Lewis does kind of have an issue, that even if it doesn't affect Bottas, it feels like it's not kind of certain that Bottas would be the one to be able to pick up the pieces from that.
I think Bottas had his vibrations from kind of whatever it was, lap 38, lap 40, and he was reporting that on the radio. And from then on, I was kind of watching the gap, and the gap to Hamilton grew a bit. So Bottas was trying to conserve a bit, trying to look after his tyres, trying to give himself some clearer air so he wasn't desecrating his tyres. But the gap to Verstappen stayed the same, flickering between a tenth. And so even when Bottas is like in conservation mode, he's got the pocket on pace to Verstappen. Definitely when Verstappen presumably would still be absolutely pushing there because he did have a sense of, Bottas's pace is dropping back. So on the car front, Verstappen can keep up can match the pace of a conserving Bottas. And that just basically is like the Mercedes is just better. I do think on the racecraft is what keeps Verstappen in the fight, not the pace. Bottas has got the pace to do it, but the racecraft is where he slacks.
Yeah.
Austria 2. That's the Verstappen being able to pull absolute worldly overtake to stay in the fight for another lap on the oldest tyres in the book. Just completely, Bottas was just embarrassed by not having got that move done on whatever it was, like lap 66. He should have got past much earlier, but I'm ducking and diving from every answer here.
I think Yeah, you're right, Adam. He should be finishing a comfortable second, just like Rosberg was doing from 2014, 2015, 2016. And as we saw in 2018, 2017, when the field was, well, when Mercedes had much stronger competition in Ferrari, you know, they had pretty much equal cars for those 2 years. Bottas really struggled compared to Hamilton. And as we said, he didn't win at all in 2018, which kind of shows a lot, really, when Hamilton was able to.
Hamilton won, Vettel won, Raikkonen won, Ricciardo won, Verstappen won that year. Bottas didn't win. Bottas finished 5th in that championship.
Yeah.
He's
lucky in the way
Williams
that Mercedes.
performances.
Yeah, he's lucky in a way that Mercedes have got such a good car because it's making him look better almost. Because the worst he should finish is second on a normal day.
Yeah. Bottas was 3/10 off Hamilton and got second. Albon was, 3 and a bit tenths off Verstappen and was 10 places behind him.
3 tenths last year would have been 4th or 5th on the grid.
I feel like he's a good number 2 in terms of everything you want. You know, like not taking Hamilton out at the start.
He's not the best number 2.
No.
He's no Barrichello.
No. But I feel like it's a bit unfair that people expect him to be kind of the championship contender because that isn't his role. That's kind of not, that's not kind of what he was meant to do.
People begrudgingly accept that's not his role, but we want a championship fight.
He
has to put himself in front of Hamilton. He's allowed to do it, to be fair, in the team. He's allowed to race Hamilton and to beat him unless it's critical. So we want to see Bottas putting his car on the line at the start of the race to try and win the race, not to try and think, oh, it's okay, maybe I'll be able to get an easy DRS pass on laps 36. No, try and win the race, Bottas.
Yeah, Bottas. I hope you're listening to this, but Freddie wants you to try harder.
Yeah, I've got a Bottas cap somewhere from 5 years ago when I was a little Williams fan. So vindicate me.
Before we move on to predictions and some F1 history stuff, have you guys got anything more to add? Anything at all?
Anything?
Yeah. Except Formula E.
Oh. Only joking. I mean, it's with hotter conditions, it will be interesting to see if Renault and Ferrari still have the pace that they have, or whether Racing Point, as we talked about, will come back into it. Will Red Bull tend to go a bit better in the hotter conditions as well compared to Mercedes? Whether it will be enough for Verstappen to, challenge the Mercs, we'll have to see. But yeah, even though we're racing at the same track with different tyres and different conditions, it should be a pretty good weekend.
Yeah, I can only really echo what Nige has just said. We had the really, really hot conditions on the Friday practice for the Grand Prix just gone, and Mercedes didn't top a session. I mean, we can read into that as much as we want. Probably should do nil, but Mercedes aren't good in the heat. They can't cool the car. So,
they're still the favourites.
They're still,
don't get me wrong.
Yeah, they're still definitely the favourites.
I don't read too much into that kind of not topping the practice. I feel like if they want to, they can. And
that's fair enough.
Lewis in qualifying, he didn't top a session. He hadn't topped a session all weekend until Q3, but he's just got that in him to come out
when you need to do it.
Yeah, and beat Bottas by 0.3. It's just he always has that up his sleeve. Carry on.
I was just going to say, Mercedes Silverstone, I was looking the other day, from 2017 to 2018 in qualifying, they improved by 7 tenths. 2018 to 2019, 7 tenths. 2019 to 2020, guess what? It was another 7 tenths. Wow. So I guess that just shows how...
They're going to be 7 tenths quicker next year?
Maybe this week. No. But yeah, that just shows what everyone else is up against.
And Lewis was a second ahead of Verstappen in qualifying. Their top line pace is just incredible. Should we move on? Oh, yeah.
So just one more point, I promise.
That's all right.
I don't think Red Bull have had a qualifying session where they've been quicker compared to last year, which I find really weird, which is why Mercedes' gap to Red Bull is almost exacerbated, really, because Red Bull haven't improved, and I don't know what that's down to. It looks like they've got the aero wrong, so yeah, that's just a point to make.
We should slag off Red Bull more.
Yeah, well, it's up to everyone else to catch up, because ultimately, if you're not improving year on year, by a few tenths, never mind 7 tenths, then clearly something has gone wrong. So that's why Mercedes are out in front by so much.
Yeah, I feel like don't get angry at Mercedes for doing a good car. Get angry at everyone else for not matching them.
Yeah, they got there. Ferrari and Red Bull got there pretty much. 2018 was the most even season we've seen recently. And particularly the final half of 2018. I seem to remember Brazil, you had sort of the back straight, you had all sort of 6 cars just involved in this fight. And that's brilliant. But then they all seem to have dropped the ball until Brazil last year. But so if we were going to Brazil, maybe, but obviously we're not. It's all about Brazil.
It is all about that Brazil. Okay, so let's move on now to some predictions for this weekend. We're not doing first and second because we're too boring. We're too boring. Well, we did agree this before, and you didn't say anything then. So
there's only so many times we can predict Bottas will win before he actually does.
But we'll look at third, fourth, and fifth, which is a bit more interesting, and it's now as I'm reading this that I can't remember, or I didn't actually write down who I wanted. So I'll invite one of you to go first.
Oh, okay. I think third place will go to Max Verstappen. No, I don't. I think third place is about to be Bottas. That's not boring. Bottas will finish third.
It's still quite boring. I think third
not
will
George
be.
Russell, is it?
I think third will be Daniel Ricciardo.
Oh, that's not boring.
Renault's first podium.
That's interesting. I was thinking the same thing.
Sure.
But now I'm going to go for Verstappen instead.
Yeah, fourth place. I'm
going to go with Norris for 4.
That's a good bet. Nigel Chew.
Sainz.
Ooh. Ricardo for me again. Another fourth.
Fair enough.
He's going to finish second in mine. No one knows.
Well, again, it could be like Raikkonen or something. You don't know. And fifth, Nigel. Who do you think will finish fifth in the 70th?
Well, we said before the podcast we're not allowed to mention this person's name, but I'm going to have to because it's Alexander Albon.
Okay. Yeah, we've had too much discussion about him, seemingly every race review and most of the previews.
Yeah,
and half the silly season pod. So
next Monday for another 10-minute discussion on Alex Albon's performance.
Yeah, who do you guys think?
Well, I was going to say Albon, but I'll say Ocon to be different. Ocon.
Ooh.
I've kind of backed myself into a corner because I think Renault will be top 5 again, but equally I don't think they're going to get third, fourth, fifth, or first and second. So
they can't. There's only 2 cars.
What the process is. So Charles Leclerc again.
Yeah, it's a good bet.
Good, but he's looking good.
He's looking pacey.
So now we'll move on to a quiz to finish the episode. This week it's going to be Freddie versus Nigel, the 2 informed players. I think Freddie's won 2 and Nigel's won 1. But he did absolutely demolish me in the Hungary round. So, yeah.
Only a bit.
That's 7-1, or up until the last few questions anyway. But we will dive straight into it. So, because it's the 70th anniversary Grand Prix, I'm splitting the quiz. So there's 1 round of questions on the last week's race, the British Grand Prix, and 1 round-ish on the 1950
What?
1950
British Grand Prix?
No, the season.
Oh, that doesn't make it any better.
You having a bubble?
So we'll start off.
You wait next time till I'm doing the quiz. I'm going to do the 1954 season. You two, if we're going to play
Let that sink in.
I'm going to get Adam against Nigel in a Formula E quiz.
Yes.
I think I've got dodgy internet that week. So let's just go with, and I've just realised I've not noted down the
any of the
answers,
questions.
which is a good
Okay.
start. But we'll start off with at the Grand Prix, at the British Grand Prix this weekend, who made the most places from their starting position to where they finished?
Freddie.
Yes, Freddie.
Is it George Russell?
It is George Russell, Freddie. Well done. He made up 8 places. So that's one
chance.
Would you have guessed that, Nigel, do you think?
I was going to say Bottas.
He made up.
Okay.
Made down lots.
Oh, no, I just went for... okay, so that's 1-0 to Freddie. Moving on to question 2. Which driver started 7th and finished 13th?
Nigel.
Yes,
Yeah.
Nigel.
Started 7th.
Finished 13th, yeah. I'm going to have to rush you.
Carlos Sainz.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Definitely knew that as I said my name.
I knew it as you said your name. I was about to say it.
I have to rush on the answers. So that's 1-1, 10th so far. How many podiums did Charles Leclerc have after 4 races last season?
Nigel.
Yes, Nigel.
Well, he had 1 in Bahrain, and then I think he had 1.
Yes, that is correct. So I kind of put that in because I thought it was interesting that even though this year's Ferrari is clearly much worse than last year's, that he's actually had more podiums at this stage. He has less points, but yeah, I just thought that was a bit of an interesting one. The next one is the closest wins, and it is, what was Hamilton's winning margin at the 2008 British Grand Prix?
Freddie.
Yes, Freddie.
68 seconds.
Yes.
Wait. To the decimal point, right? Isn't it?
Oh, fine. 68.6 seconds.
No. You can have the point. You can have the point.
It's 68.577.
Oh,
actually, it was 69.
I basically rounded it up to 68.
How do you know that?
I know because I remember David Coulthard interviewing Lewis Hamilton at a British Grand Prix a couple of years ago, and saying, "Remember when you won here by 68 seconds?" And I think either it was DC or EJ pipes up with a microphone with "Should have made it a number higher, oh, hey!" And the whole British crowd loved it. And Lewis Hamilton blushed.
It's an insight into Freddie's mind right there. There's a whole
most mentions in this podcast.
There's a whole Wikipedia entry on Grand Prix wins by Lewis Hamilton. His next biggest margin is 30 seconds, 30.135, which I think is pretty. So even in the Mercedes era, he's still not even won by half of what he did in the 2008 British Grand Prix, where he just absolutely dominated. And that was the 2014 British Grand Prix, actually. So he clearly goes well there. Didn't he? And his closest win is Yas Marina 2016, 0.439 seconds.
That was a good race. I enjoyed
looking through that. But we'll move on to, so what's that? 2-2. So this is a deciding question.
This round.
And it is inspired by Lewis's performance to win with 3 wheels on his wagon. How many piston cups did Lightning McQueen win in the Cars franchise?
Freddie.
Yes, Freddie.
None.
No.
Oh, wait. Did he win more in Cars 2? Damn it.
Nigel, I think 9?
No.
But he didn't win because the guy with the moustache won, because he went to go
but over the franchise.
Yeah, but then they raced in the World Racing League, not NASCAR.
2?
No, but you're getting closer. Freddie, do you want to go?
Is it 1?
No. Nigel. Sorry, Nigel, what did you say?
I said 3.
No. I think I know who's going to get this.
4.
Is
Yes.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
He
know
doesn't-
this.
I don't think he actually wins any in the Cars movies, but
Oh,
it
come
says-
on.
Oh well, but in Cars 2, then it says he wins 4. So yeah, but I just thought I'd throw that in as a little link there to all the memes going round of him just
Ka-chow.
hopping along to try and get it. So yeah, I
You know,
think
Jeremy
Nigel got
Clarkson
that.
was in the Cars film.
Michael Schumacher was as well.
Oh, yeah.
And
I remember
Lewis.
that.
Yeah.
In Cars.
All the
Yeah.
greats.
Mm.
And Vessel.
So, Nigel, how do you think your strength is the last week's British Grand Prix or the 1950 F1 season?
Yeah, I'm pretty good with the 1951 season, so I'm just a bit unlucky that it happened to be 1950 because I'm not quite as good
That's
as
annoying.
that.
I'm a 1950 Formula 2 expert, but Formula 1, I mean.
Drat. Well, I'm going to make it a bit easier, maybe. It's inspired by Nigel's last week, but you just have to name any driver, track, or constructor that was in the 1950 season. And it's like Nigel's last week that we just go on, keep kind of ping-ponging up. I don't know, I'll give you 1 life each, so you've got 1 pass. I don't know how much that will
That's good.
affect
Right.
it, but yeah.
Freddie first.
Nigel, you won last time in the round 1, so you have to go first. This one.
Does he?
Track.
Come on.
Track, so
Oh, no,
track,
no.
team, or driver.
Oh no, Freddie, it's an advantage to go first, isn't it? So yeah, Freddie, you. I
Yeah.
guess.
Okay.
Yeah, Freddie,
first.
you go first. So
So Formula 1 style, doing a reverse grid.
Yeah, and in terms of, there were entries, but a lot of them are, I don't know. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do the entry / constructors, but I'll figure it out. But yeah,
All right, let's just go and see what we can say.
Yeah.
Alfa Romeo.
Ferrari.
Yes.
Maserati.
Yes.
Silverstone.
Yes.
Farina.
Yes. He won, which is, I quite like the fact that it's not a legendary driver who won the first. It's just kind of, bit under the radar.
You don't think he's a legend?
Monza.
Yes.
Fangio.
Yes. Of
I'm
course. Went on. He
struggling
won
already here.
He won 5. I'm just going to try to stall and give you. So yeah, Fangio won 5 titles. He jumped around machinery a lot, and he finished second in the 1950 season to Farina. He had 27 points. Farina had 30, and he didn't finish. Nigel, if you want to give an answer, then just jump in. And of course, you can pass. You can pass as well. Fangio didn't. He either won or
pass.
retired. Okay, Freddie.
Ascari.
Yes.
Oh.
No, it's back. Sorry, finished.
How is it? 8 circuits.
6, isn't it?
7.
6.
Oh,
7.
there we go.
Okay, Silverstone.
So saying a circuit's a risk, though, isn't it?
Saying
I mean,
anything's a risk for me.
There's some that are less risky than others.
Well, cheers. Good clue.
Is there any that are on the current or what should have been in the F1 calendar this year?
Yep. There's one more.
I'm going to go Spa.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Did someone say?
Spa.
Yeah. Sorry. I thought someone said that before, but yes, that's correct.
Oh.
Spa.
That's another one that's on the F1 grid this year.
And there's
Monaco.
Of course.
Oh.
Yes. There we go.
I'm gonna go with, I don't know, Brooks, Tony Brooks. No, he's not on, is he?
Don't think he is. No.
I think it's all over. I think it is now.
I think it is.
Nice rough.
So Freddie wins that, which means we have to go to the tiebreaker, which is also very abstract. But we'll see how that goes. But yeah, the other tracks, there was the Indy 500.
Oh yeah.
was
I don't count
that year.
that.
Well, that's
Because it
fine,
wasn't-
but I do. So
It wasn't a World Championship event.
Johnny
it
Parsons
was.
counts it with his Formula One win.
It was the third race of the season, the
Yeah,
championship race of
but
the season.
It
Johnny
might-
Parsons got it, as he said. Bill
It
Holland
wasn't-
finished second.
Oh.
Bill Holland, what that Formula One great.
So yeah, I'm looking down. I'm not sure there's any more. Oh, and the other tracks were Reims
Yeah,
in
Reims.
France, which I quite like. I think there's a story of, might be Moss, it could not be. They had a big long straight at the start finish, and he went off at the final turn on purpose so that he'd have a bigger run up for the straight, which I
That's
quite
good.
like. And there's a Swiss Grand Prix at Bremgarten,
Okay.
which I wouldn't have expected anyone to get. Oh, and Luigi Fagioli, who is kind of forgotten. He was second in the first British Grand Prix, but has been lost to time, really. But we will go on to the tiebreaker, which is kind of doubly inspired by news this week, but it's also a bit of a weird one. So, can you... I'm just looking forward to seeing the faces change. Can you name the highest place finisher in the 2009 GP2 race at Portimao?
Oh,
So,
Freddie,
I mean, yeah.
Hulkenberg.
Yes. Freddie
Is it?
takes the quiz. Yeah, he did.
Yes.
He won.
wait, there's two races though.
Yeah, but he was the highest placed. He finished first in one of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, so if
Yeah.
I can get the other first place, does that mean?
Oh, go on, man.
Yeah, I guess.
Does that mean we needed it? See, the problem is I don't
Well,
really.
well,
Is it
Then,
Hulkenberg
then
as
you'll
well?
just have to name the next. Then you'll just have to name the next
No,
highest finisher. But
I'm gonna get it wrong anyway. I'm gonna go with. I nearly said Rosberg. Then it's a good thing I didn't.
Well, the
no,
2005 GP2 champion Rosberg.
Oh, no idea. Oh, my brain is.
I'll be
I don't know.
very-
I give up.
okay.
I give up.
I mean, I didn't even think about the second race, to be honest. But if it is Luca Filippi, that
Oh.
famous name of the drivers in FC that season, of Vitaly Petrov, Lucas
Yeah.
Di Grassi,
Mhm.
Roman Grosjean, although he bailed out halfway through after Hungary, Maldonado, Guido van der Garde, D'Ambrosio, Sergio
Very fun.
Perez.
Mm.
So yeah, but
Good lineup.
Freddie takes a win for the quiz this week, thanks to his abstract knowledge of history and GP2.
It was a punt and a
And-
half.
And I don't know who's on the quiz next week. It might be Nigel, but I can't remember.
It will be Freddie.
Yes, it's me.
I did mine last week.
Oh, great.
So I'm going to get you some Spanish questiones.
Yeah, I did a GCSE in Spanish, so it's gonna come off in handy.
Okay. But that's the end of the quiz and the podcast. So make sure we'll be doing a race review of 70th anniversary Grand Prix. So make sure to tune into that. That'll be going up Sunday or Monday, hopefully. And we'll see what happens there and whether we get any of our predictions right or not. We probably won't touch on it actually, but it will still be fun to tune in and obviously watch the race. It's on free to air in the UK, which is
No,
nice
it's
going.
not.
Not for
Is it
this
not?
one.
It's
No,
not.
it's not the British Grand
Oh.
Prix, is it? It's only the 70th anniversary Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Yeah.
Blame
that.
Sky.
Might be on pick.
No, it's Sky One are showing. Sky One are showing qualified live, but
Hmm.
not the race.
Okay, I think I've got Sky One. I don't know. I
Not
thought I'd
the
heard.
race, though.
Might have been Aidan Mills who said it. But yeah, anyway, that's a massive shame. But I'll listen to it on the radio instead.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, we will tune out for this one. And Freddie, where can people find us? Even
You
though they
can
already have?
find us on Twitter with Winging It F1. You can find the podcast on our podcast website at acast.com/winging it F1, I think. Yeah, / fine. You can find us on our YouTube channel, Winging It F1 Podcast. And you can listen to this podcast on Spotify and iTunes. Wow.
And you can also find all of us on Twitter. So my Twitter is at AdamDickinson01. And next, Freddie, what's your Twitter?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, Adam. My Twitter is at FredCoats1999. I wonder what Nigel's is.
Did you actually? Yeah, what is mine, Freddie?
It's at Nigel C. Journo.
Oh, wow.
It certainly
Oh,
is.
yeah.
I've got to write it into the descriptions for every episode. I've figured them all out by now.
I think everyone's tuned out as well because they all know what happens at the end.
Yeah, we have 3% viewers up until this bit. We have 4% viewers until the other bit. So.
But yeah, we need to get better at these outros, I think, or I do anyway. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you after the 70th anniversary Grand Prix. Bye.